Welcome to another S&P 500 analysis. In this S&P 500 analysis, we will analyze the S&P 500 and the other market indexes along with the market sentiment, the market internals, to get a read on where the market might be headed. Then we'll look at the two developing bubbles, Tesla and Bitcoin. We'll analyze these two potential bubbles and identify some critical things to keep an eye on for potential trade opportunities. Finally, I will do a follow-up on one of the sectors I have mentioned in my prior video, and we'll analyze some of those stocks that I am watching in that sector. Stay tuned. The S&P 500 continued to make record high, and last week was no exception. Even with the chaotic event that took place on Wednesday in the Capitol, the S&P 500 made new high along with the rest of the stock market. As we can see from this weekly S&P 500 chart, it closed the week at 3824.68, a record closing high. And for the week, the S&P 500 gained 1.88% or 70.62 points. It printed a bullish engulfing candle with a range of 163.98 points. The price remained above this long-term megaphone channel and above the 10-week and the 40-week moving average, and the weekly trend remained to be up. Before we continue, I'd like to ask you to take a moment to smash that thumbs up icon to help me promote and share this video on YouTube. This will help the channel tremendously. Let's go look at the market sentiment and its internal to see what they are telling us about the state of the market before we continue to analyze the S&P 500 and the other market indexes. In this sentiment chart, the VIX remained to be in the cautious level. It closed the week at 21.66. On Monday, we saw it move up to 26.97 as the S&P 500 sold off. The put-call ratio still remained in the neutral area and been hovering around that 0.6 level. Market participants are still not overly greedy and euphoric, but remain risk-on. On Friday, we saw a slight negative up-down volume ratio on the New York Stock Exchange and a modest positive daily advance decline. The daily advance decline was negative until literally seconds before the close, then it turned positive. Other than Friday, these two internal behaved normally. The New York Stock Exchange new high, new low had expanded up above the 300 level. It ended the week with 322 more new 52-week highs than new 52-week lows. For the New York Stock Exchange cumulative AD line, we see it leveling off a bit as reflected from the week Friday advance decline. But nevertheless, it closed at a new high along with the new closing high made by the S&P 500. Looking at the Nasdaq market, its up-down volume ratio also behaved normally for the week. It closed the week with 1.52 times more up volume than down volume. Much better performance than the NYSE. But the daily advance decline was only 129 more advancer than decliner. That too is a bit weak, similarly to the NYSE daily advance decline. On the brighter side, the Nasdaq new high, new low expanded above the 500 level. It ended the week with 527 more new highs than new low. And the Nasdaq cumulative advance decline line closed at a new high along with the Nasdaq 100. So the picture from the market participant sentiment and the market internal, or that the market remained to be on a cautious side, but it still remained risk-on. I will elaborate on the overall picture in my summary at the end of this video. Now let's go analyze the S&P 500 and the other market indexes. Now looking at this S&P 500 daily price chart here, we can see that on Monday we have a pullback. And remember last week we talked about this possible retest of this 3720 level. And if it does come down, then we expect it to also could come down and fill this gap. Then the first line of support will basically be this trend line. So you can see that it came down and dipped below this trend line, and we got a nice bounce back up and close above it. And also the other thing was if this trend line did not hold support, then we expect it to come back down to this 3645 area and possibly retest this level for support. And we said that this particular level is a significant support and resistance area because of the multiple tests that has been made at this level. So as you can see that it held this trend line along with this 36.45, and on Tuesday it put in an inside day. Then on Wednesday it was heading to a record closing high until the event took place in the U.S. Capitol. Then that prevented the S&P 500 from closing a new closing high. But then on Thursday it basically resumed its march higher and closed at a new closing high, and also Friday it did likewise. Now Friday it did close with a little bit of a hangman type of a candle, and we saw some weakness on Friday from the daily advanced decline. So wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of a pullback next week, maybe early next week, to possibly come back down and retest this 37.20 once again. And if it does come back down, then it could be by the time you come back down to this level, could also be in confluence with this trend line. So this 37.20 would be the downside target to pay attention to in the coming week. Then on the upside, we continue to watch for this S&P 500 to move up toward the 3,900 level. Although you see that it move about the 3,800 level, that what I call the evening news number. Not necessarily all round number is just a evening news headline or some round number target, but there is some significance to this 3,900 level, right? Because there is some technical significance based on this bull flag that I project to get a major move on, right? This is the bull flag. This project up to 618 at 39.01. Then also the other thing is we have a 141, right, extension here that is near that 3,900 level at 38.91. So there is some significance for this 3,900 level here other than an evening news headline type of thing. So pay attention to that on the upside around that 3,900 for the S&P 500. Look at the NASDAQ 100 daily chart here. We could see that on Monday also pulled back and it held above this 12,439, this pivot high here. And it spent the next 3 days sort of consolidating inside of this engulfing candle, although it did peak above it a little bit on the intraday. Then on Friday, it closed with another record high. And again, it also similarly like the S&P 500, it printed a little bit of a hangman type of a candle. So for the coming week, we could see again a little bit of a weakness, and maybe it will once again try to come down to the 12,439 level and try to test that for support. But if it's continue to move up, we are looking for this thing to come up to this 13,515. And that is a projected move of the 618 from this particular triangle that I have been mentioning about for the last few video. Okay, so those are the upside and downside target. For the Dow Jones Industrial, we saw it broke out of this channel here that we've been waiting for. It finally broke out of this channel, and now we're basically looking at a major move from this bull flag. And the first level to watch is this 32,221, the 618 major move. So on Friday, it printed a little bit of a hangman spinning top. So similarly to the NASDAQ 100 and the S&P 500, we could see a little bit of a weakness early on the week and possibly see a little bit of a pullback and come back in to retest the breakout of this channel. Do a little bit of a shake and bake and shake out something we can before it start continue to move back toward the 618 level here near the 32,000 area. Now on the downside, it could come all the way back down and possibly test the lower bound of this channel once again, and that would be near the 30,000 level. So basically the downside is 30,000 and the upside is continue move toward the 32,000. Looking at the Dow Jones Transportation here, we saw it printed a little bit of a graveyard spinning top doji. It is look a little bit toppy right now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it pull back a little bit and possibly get back under this 12,700 area and test for support. We did see it broke back above this declining trend line and held this lower trend line of this price channel. So on the downside, essentially that 12,700, and we could also look at this as a bull flag. This channel here. And if I do a little bit of a projection using this Fibonacci extension tool, just to get some major move, you can see on the 618, it will come up to this 13,384, and near the 80% point, it could be back up near the upper portion of this price channel and getting close to this 14,000 area. But that's a little bit of a distant wave. But so right now, we just kind of pay attention to this 13,000 level. It almost exceeded or came up to that level last Friday. It was just a little bit under 5 point shy of that level. So we're going to watch this 13,000 level to see would it be able to take that out and move up toward this 618 up at near the 13,384. And finally, looking at the Russell 2000, we saw it came down and checked this 1935 level for potential support, and it bounced nicely back above it. And then on Tuesday, it spent an inside day inside of this engulfing candle here. And on Wednesday, it broke through and broke above this price channel. So on Friday, it closed with a little bit of a spinning top. So right now, we essentially are looking at this Russell 2000 to continue to move higher, since it already took out the 2100 level that we've been talking about to keep an eye on. So right now we're basically looking at this 1618 at the 2177 area. So that will be up here. So on the upside, we'll basically continue to watch for this thing to move toward the 2177 area. And then on the downside, we can see it come back down and possibly check this 2026 area, which is also near this 141 extension at 2025. So those are the two levels to keep an eye on for the coming week. And before I summarize the market, let's go and take a look at the two bubble that a lot of people is talking about. One is Tesla and the other one is Bitcoin. All right, let's look at Bitcoin here. I got the weekly chart here on Bitcoin. As you can see, it definitely went parabolic. You see how massive move it was last week. The swing was like went down 4,428 points, and it went up over 9,000 points. So that is a huge swing for 1 week. That's a close to $15,000 swing in 1 week. I mean, that is massive, right? And it made a high of 41,969. And just, $31 short of 42,000. And right now it is trading at 40,452. So it is still continuing to move. And here I got some projection here of some of the target to keep an eye on the upside and on the downside. And like I said, when things get into a new high territory, there are no prior levels for us to use as potential target and use that as a potential resistance. So what I did is essentially I put a Fibonacci retracement and look at the extension based on this particular swing here. And you can see that it exceeded the 100%, essentially, retrace this distance here from the top of this move. And it exceeded the 36,566. And right now, the next extension level is the 2414, and that projects it up to somewhere around 43,470. So somewhere close to 44,000 level. And that would be the next upside target that I'd be keeping an eye on if Bitcoin continue to move up. And if it decide to retrace back down, and let's say it does move up to that up to that 43,000, 44,000 level, then it pulls back. Then I'd be looking for a retracement of somewhere around this 38.2 on the Fibonacci retracement level, and that will bring it down to somewhere around 28,412. And if it moved, pull back 50%, then it'd be somewhere around 23,751. So on the downside, I'd be watching for the possibility of moving back down to the 29,000 to 28,000 level, and also the 23,000 or the 24,000 level if it pulls back 50%, approximately 50% from its high. So definitely, you could say it went parabolic, and you could call that as a bubble or whatever you want to call it, but definitely it went parabolic. I wouldn't be chasing it because the risk is just too high to initiate any long position to chase after this move. And if someone decides to head out the door and start taking profit, then they're going to be a mad rush out the door. And this thing could drop $10,000 in a moment, in a blink of an eye, and it wouldn't surprise me. So right now, I basically just rather stand on the sideline and wait for a pullback and let this dust settle when it does pull back and see what sort of price opportunity it presents itself on the upside. I definitely would not, initiate any new position on the long side or even go short on it. I would not. I just would be just a spectator instead of a speculator on Bitcoin right now. And so for the near term, on a swing basis, I basically looking for this thing continue to move up. If it decide to move to, upward, like I said, at this 2.414, somewhere near the 43,470 area. Now, if it pulls back, then the short term, I'd be looking somewhere down at this 36,000 area for a little bit of a pullback, then see if it will be able to hold that support and get a bounce off of that level and then continue to resume up. So that's basically what I'd be watching on the short term. Tesla has been a short killer. If you short Tesla, you basically just giving your money away. Look at this. Ever since it broke this pullback here on 2 months ago, back in November, it essentially have doubled from somewhere around $440 to over $880. And from the low here back in March of 2020, last year, March low, it essentially gained over 1,160%, nearly 12 times from the low. It is just remarkable, for Tesla to gain this much in such a short period of time. And now we're basically looking at Tesla just went parabolic, just like Bitcoin. And you could call it a bubble or you could call it whatever you want. But no one knows when this thing going to top out and start coming back to reality. But we know eventually it will. And for now, I'm basically just going to stand on a sideline and be a spectator instead of being a speculator. Because chasing a move that is, so parabolic, it's just way, way too much risk to take on. Sure, it could still go higher. We don't know how high it could go. It could go 1,000, 2,000, whatever, right? I would rather just miss this move than get trapped and try to rush out the door when everybody is doing the same thing. So once again, just like Bitcoin, it is just too risky to take any new long position. And it is crazy, just crazy to short this stock right now. You can see that it's just basically been a short killer. And it is just not worth it to try to call the top and try to short this thing, even though, you got that urge that it's going to come down. But you just don't know when, how high it goes before it comes down. So here's some of the level that I'm going to be watching for here using this Fibonacci extension from this low here and do a major move. You can see that it have tagged this 127 last week. And if it continue to move up, then I'd be looking at this 141, somewhere up at this 941 level. And if it move up to the 1618, then we're talking about 1,029. So that will bring Tesla above the $1,000 level, right? So that is essentially the upside target that I will be watching when it get up to these new high territory and there are no prior levels for us to use as potential resistance or possible target, the only two that I found that to be objective is these Fibonacci retracement, Fibonacci extension tool. Like I said before, it is not, infallible. It is just one set of tools that I use. You could use anything you want that works for you, but it works for me because it is very objective. When I try to, find the level to draw trend lines or estimate where the potential support or resistance level is going to be out of thin air, So, but these are my projection based on the tool that I use and for whatever it's worth. And then the other side is, let's say we start seeing Tesla to pull back from this level next week. Then what I would do is I'd be using the Fibonacci retracement tool and get a projection to see, if it pulls back 38%, where would that be? And that would be somewhere around $691, which is close to one of the level I have, $695, or close to the $700 level. I mean, plus or minus a few dollars here and there. And if it pulls back to the 50% level, then we're basically looking at the 631 area. So basically looking at this, 690, 630 as a potential pullback target if it decides to pull back next week. So once again, I am not getting long or short on this thing. I'm just going to be a spectator. Risk is just too high. So you could call it what it is. It is definitely one parabolic, and you could call it a bubble or just a bull move or whatever. If I'm long in the stock, I would be tying up the stop so to protect and lock in some of these massive profit that I have attained, just in case someone decide to head out the door and create this mad rush out the door. So that's what I would do. But short term wise, I wouldn't touch this thing at all. Well, congrats if you're long in this stock. Now, I apologize, this video is getting too long, so I'm going to go and go through some of the stock in the cannabis sector quickly and briefly. If you have any question or comment on these stocks or anything that I cover, just post them in the comment section below, and I will reply to them as soon as possible. So let's start off with Tilray. Remember last week I talked about one of the sectors that I'd be focusing in on 2021 is the cannabis sector. And with the Democrat controlling the Senate, the House of Representatives, and the office of the presidency, then we basically are looking for a acceleration of the federal legalization of the cannabis industry. And from that, I speculate that there will be a speculation fever into this sector, as we saw that soon after the two Republican candidates won the Senate race in Georgia last Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, we saw this massive move on the cannabis stock. Right here on Tilray, we could see this gap up, and it came up to one of the potential resistance level at 1209. So right now, it's basically I'm still watching this for this thing to break out and break above this particular resistance area here. And if we could break out of this area, then next target level that I'll be watching will be 1578, somewhere up at the $16 level. But if it pulls back, I continue to watch this, maybe this trend line here for potential support. You can see right now it is at the upper value area of this particular, value area here, this high volume area, right? Nice Gaussian distribution. So we could see a little bit of a pullback before it push. If it break out of this value area, then definitely we see this low volume zone here, and that probably will move to that fairly quickly and get up to the $16 level. And for Cannabis Growth Corporation, CGC, you can see also it gap up and move above this 2889 level here. So I could see that it will it could continue to move up, and the target level that I'll be watching would be 3844. If it pulls back, then look for this 2889 get retested and possibly come in and fill this gap before it pushes back up. So once again, it's basically it's inside of this high volume area, and once it get into this low volume zone here, I could see that it could make a quick move up to this 3844 level, and possibly even make it up to this 4168 or 4198. This is basically the composite value area high. So, and these are some of the possible resistance level that I'm looking at. So those are the possible target level here. 2889 on a pullback, and possibly back down here somewhere around this 27 to fill the gap. And the upside target 3844, and possibly up here near the $42 level. And for Chrono, we can see that it's trying to get above this $9.10 level. If it could get above that, I'd be watching for a 1058, a move toward a 1058, then chop around and push itself up to this 1288 at this composite value area high. If it decide to pull back a bit, then be watching for this gap, possibly this gap to get filled near the $8 level here. I'd be surprised if it come down to this 689, and if it does, I definitely will be looking for some sort of possibility of adding to any existing long that you might have, or looking for some sort of setup to initiate some new long down here. So those are some of the upside downside level. Here we're looking at Althea. Althea is trying to make it up to this 915, unable to do so, and that pull back. So wouldn't be surprised to see if it's going to come down to below the $8 level and fill this gap before it make another push to 915. But if it decides to move about that 915, I'd be looking for the next potential target somewhere around the $11 area. So that is a quick look at the cannabis stock. Apologize for this video running so long. So if you have any questions or comment on these stocks and anything that I have covered in this video, be sure to post them on the comment section below, and I will reply to them as soon as possible. In summary, the S&P 500 and the rest of the market remain on the upward slope. Although they are a bit extended and we could see a near-term pullback, the daily advanced decline appears to indicate that such a near-term pullback could be on the table, but by no means this market will come crashing down in the near term. The market participants' sentiment are not at the euphoric or greedy stage, and the market internal have not shown sign of deterioration. Be sure to smash the thumbs up to help me promote and share this video on YouTube, and if you haven't subscribed to this channel, click the subscribe. Thank you for watching and stay safe.